All right, and in case you're joining us now, well, with me in studio, we have Bernard Wakoli, who's a political analyst, and Duncan Okach, who is a lawyer. And before I come to you, gentlemen, on that particular story and what you think about it, let me just read a tweet from somebody who's watching, and they say, this is Evelyn, they say, why did the MPs take an oath of office if they don't plan to do house business? It's shameful display of our leaders. Again, we go back to politics because it's a political move for them not to come to Parliament. They're trying to get a message across, but at the same time, they took an oath of office, and according to Jubilee, they maybe just be appearing for allowances.
Yeah.
Bernard?
Sure. When you look at the participation of NASA MPs in Parliament or in Senate, you see they are listening to their principals, to Moses Wetangula, who is now coordinating the affairs of Parliament, and also they are listening to what Honorable Riley is telling them. But, you know, behind them, they're also fearing for the loss of their positions, because anybody within their constituencies can actually constitute a petition to withdraw their members of Parliament if they find possible grounds that these members of Parliament are not representing them in the right direction. Also, members of Parliament incurred a lot of, costs during campaigns, and they need to service their loans. They need to service, to get some safety nets to get moving. So telling them to actually boycott Parliament sittings is good politically, because to them, they are like, we don't want to discuss the speech by the president because we don't recognize that president. That's the main thing. It's not about sitting in Parliament. So they are calculating for the duration when the discussion about the president's speech will end, because the question behind their mind is, if at all we are discussing Uhuru's speech during the opening of the Parliament, then
that's obviously something they will not want to participate in. Because they assume Uhuru is in the office illegally. Then they assume that maybe NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga might win election and also come to Parliament to give his speech. So which kind of speech are they? Because are they going to be discussing?
Constitutionally, the president of the elected president is supposed to address the Parliament and give his blueprint of what is going to accomplish during the entire 5-year period. So we are living in a very tricky situation where members of Parliament don't want to discuss this president's speech. At the same time, we don't know the outcome of the 17th elections.
Right.
So that's the challenge that these MPs are facing.
Duncan, your thoughts on this, and also just the technical side of it, because according to the law, if they miss 8 consecutive sittings with no good reason and are not having informed the speaker, then they stand to lose their seats.
True, that is their position, and it's something that any of these members of Parliament know. And they learn from their forefathers, the likes of Matiba. The story you've run is an apt example of it. And they'll just perfect it, just like Matiba did. They'll always go in and sign. And there's no provision that says that when you sign, it is not tantamount to attendance. Yes. So regardless of what the people in the House were saying, once they have signed, and as long as it is within 8 days, that is it. And even if it is 8 days and you have a logical reason, you can actually still be excused. But I choose to look at it from a different dimension. We have an issue that afflicts us politically, and that is the fact that we cajole or we curtail the rights of individual members of Parliament to make individual decisions. And that is because of the issue that we have parties, and parties try to whip their members to a certain direction. But that also undermines the ability to use their medulla oblongata to make decisions based on either the best interests of their electorates or based on what they believe principally is the best interest. And it cuts across. You have to look at what NASA is doing. It only favors the interests of the big men in that particular formation. It is not based on the best interest of the monarchy, because the monarchy elects you to go and do business of the House. You are a legislative person. That you best achieve it in the House. You best represent the interests of your people in that particular House, including that particular speech by the president, whereby if you think you have an issue with that, raise it in that particular house. Let it go on record that I had an issue with it, I raised this issue, and to me, if it was another individual making that speech, this is what I would have preferred to have. But when they are told you don't have to do that, then you see the kangaroo business of coming in, sneaking in, and signing and running away, and you get your packs. Then, regardless of the fact that in terms of the law you cannot be disqualified, but the moral authority behind you earning that particular salary for that particular work.
Yeah, the question then would be, where is principle in this? Because if your principle is that the sitting of parliament was not duly constituted because the president has not yet been, because of where we are as a country, then why doesn't that principle go all the way to the end and say, you know what, I'll not even draw the salary, I'll not draw the, because it is not a properly constituted house.
True, and that is something that I'm saying is an issue. And it cuts across, because on one side we have that. On the other side we also have, we just need to look at how the speakers, deputy speakers, majority leaders were actually, not majority leaders, especially the speakerage. You'll just find that Jubilee, when it was a time that the county assembly was to elect its speakers, and I think its formation, there was that free will that I want to vie. But when they were, people had already even started campaigning. But come a State House meeting, you are told this is the lineup, and you have to to that. When we look at it in terms of the National Assembly, what happened? It is the same scenario that happened. Everyone, there's free will, and all of us supported the same president. But when it comes to now my free will of subjecting myself to the will of these particular people, then there's a lineup that comes. How it has come up, we don't know, but you are told this is how it is. And then on both fronts, we have the chief whips. Chief whips, ideally, it's an autocratic kind of formation because they're supposed to whip you. Now they whip you to even the wrong direction, as opposed to even your own principalities. You'll have to tone the line. And then it means there's something wrong with this with this fabric that we have, and we need to look into it.
And before we go to the papers, Bernard, where does that leave Mwananchi? Because at the end of the day, we are the ones, it's Mwananchi who goes and queues and makes sure that these people get to parliament or to Senate. But at the end of the day, it looks like they're not after the election. It seems their interest is not taken care of.
Sure, Mike. You know, when people line up and queue for a whole day to elect their leaders, behind them, they are thinking that this leader is going to actually transform, to come up with the policies that will transform their lives. But what we are seeing in Kenyan scenario is very different, because once we have elected, then it's like me for myself and God for us all. As in, I think about myself first. I think about protecting my interests within the party ranks. Not that I'm in good books with my party leader or my coalition leader. I'm in good books with my party, and the rest, the voters, you know, I don't care about what happened. But they're forgetting that they'll go back at the end of this term and start to, you know, persuading. But the porous political environment that Kenya operates in, people still vote them in, because once, you know, I'm supporting Baba and I'm with Baba, I'm supporting Uhuru, I'm with Uhuru, I've always been fighting these wars for Baba and Uhuru, you know, they will still be elected. You saw Jim Orengo in Siaya. I'm told he never even put a poster for nominations, but he got the highest votes, almost 150,000 votes. During elections, main election, he never even went there to campaign.
Yet he still managed to.
I'm busy protecting Baba at the national level.
So I guess
elected.
The way to campaign now in our current setup then maybe is just to support whoever is supported by the masses.
Yeah, but you see, something that baffles me the most is the way independent candidates are also behaving. Because when the Constitution provided for the position of independent candidature, we thought that these independent candidates will behave or operate as with independent mind. But what we are witnessing is others have crossed either to NASA, others have crossed to Jubilee. So why did you run as an independent candidate when you knew that your mind is based or is following a certain philosophy
I think that's a whole other debate, because the question is whether they're really independent, or they just felt that maybe within their parties they were not treated right. And crossed over for the sake of getting to parliament.
In parliament they are there as independent candidates. They are not there as NASA or Jubilee candidates or MPs or senators. So they need to operate as independent MPs or independent elected leaders and pledge their loyalty to the electors, the people who elected them. So the Kenya we operate in, I think there's need for serious political overhaul.
Well, let's now